Rain fell like shattered glass against the windshield as Mark gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles pale under the flickering glow of the dashboard. The highway stretched endlessly through the desert, a black vein winding between skeletal cacti and silent hills. The GPS had died an hour ago, and there hadn't been another car since sunset. Beside him, Emily shivered under a thin blanket. "Just stop anywhere," she whispered. Her voice trembled, half from the cold, half from the exhaustion of driving through the storm. And then, through the sheets of rain, a faint red glow appeared ahead. A neon sign blinked through the darkness. Desert View Motel, vacancy. Mark slowed down, the tires sloshing through the mud, headlights illuminating the cracked driveway. The sign buzzed weakly, one of the letters sputtering. The parking lot was empty except for a single rusted pickup truck coated in dust, thick enough to dull its windows. The motel itself was small, 2 floors, 10 rooms, all with closed curtains. One light glowed in the office near the entrance. Emily exhaled in relief. Thank God. They rushed through the rain toward the office, their shoes sinking into wet sand. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and something faintly metallic. A bell sat on the counter. Mark rang it twice. From the back room, an old man appeared, tall, thin, wearing a pressed white shirt and a crooked name tag that read, Earl. His expression was neutral, eyes pale and distant, like he hadn't seen anyone in years. "Rough night out there," he said slowly, voice dry like dust. "Only got 1 room left. Number 6. Emily nodded eagerly. "That's fine. We just need to rest." He slid a key across the counter, a heavy brass one attached to a cracked plastic tag. "Cash only," he added. Mark paid with 2 crumpled bills. Earl's fingers brushed his briefly, icy cold, like touching marble. Outside, the rain softened into a steady hiss. Room 6 was at the end of the row. The door creaked open to reveal a room stuck in time. Faded wallpaper, a tube TV, a bed covered in a floral comforter that smelled faintly of bleach. Emily collapsed onto the bed. "I don't even care if there's bed bugs." Mark laughed weakly, turning on the old lamp. The light flickered once and steadied. He looked around. Everything was spotless, but too spotless. Like someone had recently cleaned it for guests who never arrived. As he unpacked their bags, he noticed something strange. The guest book on the desk. It was old, bound in cracked leather. The most recent entry was from October 12, 1989, signed by a couple with the same last name as theirs. Mark frowned. "That's weird." Emily turned her head, sleepy. "What is?" He closed the book slowly. "Nothing. Just déjà vu." The rain began again, harder this time. And through the paper-thin walls, faint footsteps echoed down the empty hallway outside. But when Mark opened the door, no one was there. Only the hum of the flickering neon sign, painting the puddles red. The rain had quieted to a faint tapping on the window, a tired heartbeat against the glass. Emily was already asleep, curled tightly under the thin blanket. Mark lay awake, staring at the ceiling where a brown water stain spread like a slow bruise. Something about the room felt wrong. It wasn't the smell, though the faint scent of cleaning chemicals and mold clung to everything, but rather the silence, the heavy, deliberate stillness that seemed to press against his chest. He sat up and looked around. The curtains were drawn shut, yet he could see the faint pulse of the red neon light from the sign outside. It blinked irregularly, like a dying heartbeat. When Mark stood to close them tighter, he noticed something odd. the outline of a handprint on the inside of the glass. Small, smudged, fresh. He rubbed at it with his sleeve. It didn't come off. He turned toward Emily, meaning to wake her, but stopped. There was movement under the door. A shadow. Someone was standing outside. The handle rattled once, gently, as if testing the lock. Mark froze. His breath caught. Then, just as suddenly, the shadow moved away. The faint sound of footsteps faded down the corridor. He waited several seconds before whispering, "Emily, wake up." She stirred, disoriented. "What?" "Someone was outside," he said. She blinked at him, groggy and irritated. "You're just tired. Go back to sleep." He hesitated, then nodded. Maybe she was right. Maybe it had been the wind, or his nerves. But when he lay down again, his eyes drifted toward the nightstand. There, half hidden beneath the lamp, was a small Polaroid photograph. He picked it up. It was faded, colors bleeding from years of age, but clear enough to make out two figures standing in front of the motel office, a man and a woman. The woman looked exactly like Emily. The man, the same face, the same tired eyes, was him. And in the background, behind them, through the glass door of the office, stood Earl, watching. Mark's stomach twisted. The photo was dated October 12, 1989. He turned it over, and on the back, in faint pencil, were the words, "They never checked out." Mark couldn't sleep. The photograph burned itself into his mind, the words on the back repeating like a mantra. They never checked out. The room was silent, yet every creak of the old building sounded amplified, echoing in the corners of his mind. Around midnight, the faint hum of the neon sign outside flickered through the blinds. Mark got up, careful not to wake Emily. The hallway beyond the door stretched into darkness, the carpet damp from decades of rain seeping through the roof. A soft tapping reached his ears, deliberate, rhythmic, coming from the floor above. He froze. It wasn't possible. The motel's second floor had been empty for years, its staircase rotted and unsafe. Curiosity, or perhaps dread, compelled him to step into the hall. The air was thick and cold, smelling of dust, mildew, and something faintly metallic. Every step on the worn carpet sounded like a shout in the silent building. From the end of the corridor, a door creaked open slowly. Faint light spilled out, though all the room lights were off. The air grew colder, brushing against Mark's skin like icy fingers. A figure appeared in the doorway, pale, motionless, standing just beyond the threshold. Mark couldn't tell if it was a person or a trick of the shadows. His breath caught. Emily's voice, muffled and sleepy from their room, called softly, "Mark?" He spun around. The figure was gone. Only the soft tapping continued, now coming closer. Panicked, he retreated to the room, locking the door behind him. Emily stirred again, rubbing her eyes. "Mark, what's wrong?" He showed her the Polaroid. She glanced at it, frowning. "It's just a picture. It's old." He wanted to believe her. He really did. Then he heard it. A whisper, unmistakable, faint but clear. "Check out." Mark froze. The voice wasn't coming from outside. It came from the wall, from the room itself. The lamp flickered violently, then steadied. The Polaroid slid off the nightstand on its own, landing face up at the foot of the bed. The words seemed to pulse from the photograph. "They never checked out." Outside, the storm raged harder, the neon sign flickering red against the night. And for the first time, Mark understood. The motel wasn't abandoned. Not really. It had never let anyone leave. The storm had not relented. Rain hammered against the windows like a relentless drum, thunder shaking the building to its bones. Mark and Emily sat in the room, huddled together, the Polaroid between them like a warning. Mark's hands trembled. "We have to leave. Now." Emily nodded, but when she touched the doorknob, it wouldn't turn. Locked. Not by them. A low creak echoed from the ceiling. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, moving across the rotted second-floor hallway. Then a voice, cold, brittle, whispering directly into the room. "You can't check out." The neon light outside flickered red through the blinds, painting the walls like blood. Mark tried the window. It was sealed, nailed shut. The room felt alive, walls breathing, pulsing with the storm. Suddenly, all the lights went out. Total darkness. Emily gasped. Something brushed past her arm, icy and insistent. Mark reached for her, but the space between them seemed to stretch unnaturally. From the corner of the room, shapes began to emerge. Faint, translucent figures, a man and a woman, frozen mid-step, eyes hollow, faces the same as the couple in the Polaroid. Behind them, the office door slowly opened. Earl stood there, expressionless, the neon light reflecting off his pale skin. "Check out," he said again, flat, like a mantra. Mark tried to scream, but no sound came. Emily's hand slipped from his, vanishing into the darkness as if swallowed by the room itself. The ghostly couple approached, their movements jerky, unnatural, yet deliberate. Mark stumbled backward. The room seemed infinite now, stretching beyond the walls, beyond time. The Polaroid floated from the bedstand into the air, spinning slowly, showing scenes of countless guests trapped, their faces twisted in silent terror. "You never leave," the figures whispered. Voices layered, overlapping, 1,000 echoes compressed into one. Mark closed his eyes. When he opened them, Emily was gone. Only the bed remained, empty and neatly made. Outside, the storm had passed. The neon sign flickered once, then died. Mark ran to the office, door wide open, but the lobby was empty. The desk, the bell, even Earl, gone. Dust floated in the air like ash. The highway beyond was empty, silent, stretching endlessly into darkness. On the floor lay a single Polaroid, freshly printed. Mark picked it up with shaking hands. The image showed him alone in room 6. And in the background, faintly, a pair of pale, empty eyes watched him from the doorway. He dropped the photo, ran to the car. Engine turned. Headlights cut through the fog. Route 39 awaited. But something gnawed at him. A certainty that no matter how far he drove, the motel had followed him, lingering just outside perception, waiting for the next guests who would never check out.